you'll all stare and you're in the screen, but you don't really want to look at yourself because
Right.
you want to talk to one another.
Yeah.
And we don't technically start until 5:30. So this is the
I'm in support.
this is the live but yet not completely set to go version of the event.
The silence your cell phones.
Yes, this is where
Mm.
Amy, please put your cell phone away.
Mm-hmm.
And
All right.
You mean this way?
Right.
Yeah. And then Pam and Diego are off camera, but I always mention that they're here.
Yeah.
Pam will have a Starbucks cup coming to her in the morning. So every time she helps, she gets a Starbucks cup, but that's really only certain people get to that level. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I'm Diego Ochoa. I'm superintendent of the San Mateo-Foster City School District, and we are here with a YouTube live stream event. As you can tell, I am not here alone. I am here with my colleagues. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, and then I'm going to introduce our folks who are off camera, and I'm going to start with my friend here to the right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Christian Rubalcaba, and I'm the school principal of Abbott Middle School.
Abbott Middle School. Tell me your school's mascot.
The Abbott Falcons.
Fly, Falcons, fly.
Fly, Falcons, fly.
All right. And Amy, introduce yourself.
Right. Hello, I'm Amy Burke. I'm one of the district math TOSAs. And we don't have a district
We don't
mascot.
really have a mascot here at the district office, but we're small but a mighty team.
Yeah, that's right.
So we have a lot of spirit anyway. Another one of my colleagues here at the district office, seated to my left.
Hello, everyone. Kenyatta Cook, Director of Curriculum and Instruction. And former mascot was Bobcat at Burrell. So
Former
there we go.
Bobcat. And then you were also a teacher in the district.
I was
Or you were
assistant principal.
assistant principal. Was it also at Burrell?
Yes.
Okay.
And then principal of Meadow Heights.
Principal of Meadow Heights. And then you were a student in the district.
Yes. Park Elementary
Oh,
and Burrell
okay.
alum. And then went to San Mateo
Whoa.
High School.
Oh, wow. Okay. You basically
Made
stayed
it.
super close to home all this time. Well, good to have you here. And then
Thank
seated to your left.
I'm Andy Warnoff. I am also a district math teacher on special assignment.
Very good to see you, Andy. Awesome to have you. As I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, we have a couple of people off camera. One is our communication specialist, Diego Perez. Can you say hi, Diego, even though they can't see you?
Hello, everyone.
And our director of curriculum and instruction for our elementary schools,
Good evening, everybody. Pam Bartfield.
Pam Barfield. Now, Pam is interesting because she does actually have a background in drama, so it's hard for her to be off camera, but
I'm back here directing. It's okay.
she's
And active.
living vicariously through us. We have some data for you all. We're going to start with one of my favorite charts. Diego Perez will be sending this out very soon. It's our data dashboard for COVID cases in the entire district. 5 cases among students and 3 cases among staff from November 1st through November 7th. This is our chart indicating COVID cases over a 4-week span. And what you'll see is that the week just prior to our October break, the case count was very low. And then during the break, equally low. And then coming out of the break, we did see an increase. It jumped up to 15. And now it's starting to come back down just a little bit. Under 10 last week, as I mentioned, and we're excited to see that. We're also very excited about an event coming up that I'm going to talk about in just a second. This Saturday, November 13th, I will be at Bayside Academy with Trustee Noelia Corzo and Trustee Shara Watkins. And the 3 of us will be engaging with families at what's called a school board community workshop. And the workshops they're all intended to create an open and unscripted and genuine conversation between families in the district and the school board members who represent them on the board. I'm there to help coordinate the event, so we will have childcare for families, we will have food for attendees, we will have translation available on site for the event. It does start at 2 p.m. this Saturday at Bayside Academy. I hope you're able to come out and join us at that event. And then our last notice, super exciting, the Big Red Flyer COVID-19 vaccine event. As families are aware, we had a lot of eager folks signing up in such a way that this event, which is being held at the Dr. Joan Rosas Gymnasium at Bayside Academy on Monday, November 15th. We put out a link for folks to sign up and register for appointments, and within 15 minutes, it was all booked up. So we're super excited about that. We will have information for families who are checking in when they get there. We are going to have people in costume, making it fun and safe and comfortable for all of our kids getting vaccinated. We really want to encourage families to seek the vaccination opportunities that are in our community. Many of those are starting to ramp up. The center down in the middle of town, the event center, is starting to hold events. I talked to some folks who got their kids vaccinated at Target. You can believe it. So that's happening.
Great.
One of their kids said, I think Target's just for toys and food. But apparently they're also doing
Nothing more.
vaccinations.
Nothing more.
It's a new day. So we're excited about that. We're looking forward to our event, 500 vaccinations in one night, 3 to 8 p.m., Dr. Joan Rosas Gymnasium at Bayside Academy. So I hope you join us there. And we're really looking forward to that. So we have 2 items on the event for tonight. The first is our math pathways. As you all heard just a couple of minutes ago, we have 2 of our math teachers on special assignment, also known as TOSAs. They're here with us today. You have our current director of curriculum and instruction for the middle schools and one of our middle school principals with us. So we're super excited to have you both here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk for a couple of minutes about the process that we've used over the last 3 months to arrive at the place that we're at today. So it really started with debriefing after the decision was made this March and April to initiate a district-wide 6th grade math program, which was a change for us because for many years we had put in compacted math into 6th grade, and there was a decision made to stop doing that practice. And we really ramped up among the educators, the teachers on special assignment, the classroom teachers, and school administrators to basically put together a series of actions and steps that would connect our math TOSAs to our math teachers, connect our district administrators to our school principals, all around the issue of a successful 6th grade math program. Now, we taught 6th grade math last year, and we taught it the year before. So it wasn't necessarily new curriculum in that we had those standards, they existed. What changed for us was that we were coming out of a pandemic where it was such a bizarre school year. We were on computer screens for 75% of the year. And then when we came back, there were sort of 2 paths that started, sort of the initial return, and then even that changed after that. So there was just a lot of newness to the way that we were operating our math program. And we implemented this year our Zern math at the elementary schools, and then at our middle schools, we implemented Math Nation, which were both newer curriculums to be implemented. So there was a lot of work that we had to do at the district office to really coordinate with our teachers and help them have materials, lesson plans, activities, supports to make sure that they had what they needed to feel successful teaching 6th grade math. So the initial steps in that August and September time period were really about being in classrooms and being in teacher meetings. Amy, you work at the district office. I feel like I see you 5 times a day. I have several people I work here at the district office where I just run into them a lot. Andy, you're less mobile right now, but I see you a lot too. Talk a little bit about what that engagement is like with classroom teachers teaching 6th grade math in our district right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So just going back to the summer, we got the opportunity to work with our middle school math teachers, particularly these teachers in 6th grade, around building out what might this course look like, and really using our Math Nation curriculum and our Desmos curriculum to plan classroom activities for students that would engage all learners and allow for students to really contribute to the mathematical conversation in class
Yeah.
and to learn from one another.
And that's a big part of our approach this year, is that it's the conversation about math,
Mhm.
the thinking about math, and the verbal expression of what they want to do with their math knowledge is central to the way that we're teaching math.
Right, and it is central to the way that we're teaching it, and it's central to the standards for mathematical practice that are part of our Common Core curriculum, or standards for in the state.
Yeah.
So, nobody needs this detail, but to all the math teachers out there, we're talking right now about Standard Math Practice 3, construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. So it's one of our actual practice standards that we need to practice. In any case, so we did have that opportunity for some summer work to pull together some teachers.
That's great.
And then we have also, because we know that we were doing some changes with our pathways, and because we knew we're coming out of a pandemic and needed to really set a strong foundation in our middle school classrooms, we actually do have more support in place this school year for our Math 6 program. So we actually have at each of our 4 large middle schools, comprehensive middle schools.
So that's Bayside,
Yes.
Bowditch, Burrell, and Abbott.
Mhm.
Yep.
We actually have what are we calling them? A teacher coach.
Yeah, like an instructional coach
Yeah.
to provide direct one-on-one support with each of the 6th grade teachers. So that's somebody who is, in a lot of cases, spending time in classrooms with the other teachers. They have a reduced course load themselves, so they have the freedom.
So they might not teach 6 classes.
Right. So some of them are teaching, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a reduced course load, so that they can be in the classroom as often as possible with the other teachers, working directly with students in those spaces, observing the teacher, providing feedback and support for the teacher to help improve instructional practices across the district as well, so that we can better align with our students' needs in multiple ability classrooms.
What I think is great about that, Andy, is that we knew we were shifting into a new program this year. We knew that Math Nation and Desmos, we needed to spend time coordinating it. And we built a structure where we could help teachers in the classroom.
Absolutely.
We anticipated that would be a need, and we put together a program. Dr. Rubalcaba, you're at Abbott. You have a big school. You got 250 some odd 6th graders at your school. Talk about what you see as the principal at Abbott.
Absolutely. And just echoing what you had mentioned with the TOSA. So I have one of the such TOSA working at my site. And what I'm seeing is a lot of collaboration with teachers, right? It's actually increased the level of that mathematics community, right? Where they come together and they start with data, right? And so I'm seeing a lot of rich conversations in department meetings, specifically, since we're talking about math, with the focus on data and conversing and figuring out ways to bring in that informal data that's very important, right, on how students are interpreting the math and what they need, right, to take them to the next level.
Well, and you're in an interesting situation because last year you were the principal of Laurel.
Correct.
So you had kids
Yes.
that were your students who, for a year and a half, their whole educational experience changed. It was just, they had the end of the year chopped off from March until June, and then basically their entire next year was just so different and web-based for most of it. And then when we did come back, it still wasn't, kind of what we're doing now. And those kids came with you to Abbott.
They did.
And now they're face to face. What are kids telling you about learning math in person versus what you heard from them last year learning math online?
I think one of the biggest pieces of feedback from students is the need to have mathematic conversations,
Yeah.
right? I know that before the pandemic, had taken over at the elementary school level, there was a huge focus on math talks, right? And so we were really diving in from kinder all the way through, 8th grade, and really honing in on that elementary block on math talks. Then that was removed, as you mentioned, Superintendent Ochoa. And so we're coming back, right? And we're seeing the need for these math talks, right? Diving into the mathematical practices, one of which you mentioned earlier. kids need to talk and socialize and make sense of math, right? And the mathematical concepts through speech.
I go to your school fairly frequently. When you and I go into classrooms, I see kids working in groups a lot.
Always.
I don't see a lot of kids in rows facing forward. Amy, talk about that design. Talk about why we see more of that this year.
Right. Yeah, we're asking our students to do the heavy lifting of learning mathematics, right? We're moving from a more traditional American classroom approach where the teacher is the holder of all the knowledge to the teacher is facilitating the opportunity for students to pick up, to persevere, and to take risks, to develop and make concrete their own understanding. Math is totally, I loved hearing you say this, math is totally about making sense. It really is. And so we're trying to provide those opportunities, but we don't want the students to make sense by themselves, right? We want them to make sense together because a problem on the table in front of us, a challenge, whether it be a mathematical one or not, we're going to be able to attack it best when you bring your perspective, your perspective, your perspective. I share an idea and we make it stronger. So we're really trying to put that in play in our math classrooms.
We're putting it in practice.
We're trying to.
And
Yeah.
then, Kenyatta, you and I work here at the district office pretty frequently together.
Yes.
Talk to the families out there, talk to the educators out there about the strategy we've used over the last 8 weeks to engage with Dr. Chambliss, with Pam, with our math TOSAs. Talk a little bit about how that rolled out.
Sure. So it's just been really great to be at the Cafe Con Diego's. That's been one main way that we've been able to not only hear from our parent community, and as a team, as services team, go out to the sites and hear what the concerns are and hear what the feedback is about the suggested math pathways. But we've been also able to take that back when we come back to the district office and talk about it Fridays. Really, we've had an opportunity every week to meet with our math TOSA team and talk about what we're hearing from the different sites and really have that inform where we're going. And so that's been a really authentic process, a process that we really haven't employed a whole lot in this district, to be honest. We've had an opportunity to really be
And the first few
interactive.
meetings
Yeah.
were weird. Let's just put that out there.
Yeah.
None of us were really sure where this was going.
We didn't know. And that was the good part about
I mean,
it.
some of us carried others.
Yeah.
We know
You're
that.
welcome. You're welcome.
And that was what was so great about it, was that it was just really authentic
Genuine.
and genuine process, interactive, Q&A format, but really, in this room, at this table, being able to engage as district leaders and math leaders in our district around what we're designing
That's right.
and really have that inform our process. So that was a really
What I think is so great about how that is a parallel to what we're doing in our math classrooms is that, what we're doing in our math classrooms is setting up a structure where we say the issue is on the table. It's for the 5 of you to talk through it. And that's really what we did at this table, because actually those meetings took place here, where we said the issue is, where do we go from here? And it's all of us bringing our own perspective and our own problem solving to try to arrive at this conclusion. And for the last 2 weeks, we've been meeting with parents in the community and talking about a situation where in the 22-23 school year, so basically next school year, we would allow an implementation of math pathways that would include a combination of a pathway where kids can take 6th grade math this year, 7th grade math next year, and 8th grade math when they're in 8th grade, and then get to high school and take algebra as 9th graders. If a student were to do that, and then when they get to high school, they take algebra, they take geometry, they take algebra 2, and if they didn't accelerate or take any double courses, they would actually get to pre-calculus in high school in 12th grade. And that's without taking algebra in middle school. So we're definitely recommending to leave that option on the table. Okay, so for some students, that's the perfect option. A second option that we've talked about is an option where we create a pathway for kids to potentially take a test to meet a Math 7 competency requirement. So where we say, here's kind of an end of course test for Math 7, and you're free to take this test. And if you pass it, then you don't need to take Math 7. So when you're in 7th grade, you take Math 8. And then when you're in 8th grade, you take Algebra.
That's right.
We recently sent out a survey,
Mhm.
sent it to 1,000 students and to 1,000 parents, all 6th grade students and 6th grade parents. We got close to half of the parents to respond. And what was interesting is we saw the most preferred option of the families who wanted their kids to basically accelerate or kind of jump 1 year ahead. The most preferred option was to basically take a test, proving that they could do 7th grade math. Okay. The second most preferred option, because we gave multiple options, was for their kids to be able to do all the work independently, basically for the district to come up with a series of activities that kids would do by themselves, but to know that we had set up some kind of office hour every week. So let's call it like Monday at 5 p.m. So that if my child needed help, they could Zoom in on Mondays at 5 to get extra help. But if they didn't need help, they wouldn't have to be in that class. It's not like attendance taking, it's more like office hours, kind of like college, how we experience college. And then a third option that we gave was, would you like to take a summer school class? And actually, we got a fair amount of parents who said, yeah, this would be great. I would love for my kids to take a 6-week summer school class, and that'd be awesome. So that came together pretty well. And then we also asked, what would you think about a situation where your kids take 6th grade math this year and 7th grade math next year? And then in 8th grade, they take 8th grade math, period 1 and period 2, just as an example. And then in the spring, they take algebra, period 1 and period 2. Now, what's interesting about that option is it doesn't accelerate the math because you give the same amount of time. It's taking place over a semester as opposed to a full year, but it's the same amount of time in class with support from the teacher. So that's sort of a new thing for us, that concept. We hadn't really put that on the table yet. I want to turn it over to you folks to just give perspective about those options. When I lay them out that way for you, what comes to mind? What do you think about? What's your perception or reaction to those kind of options? And Andy, I'll start with you if you don't mind.
Yeah, I want to touch, I think, on the first option that you
Yep.
laid out with which is the grade level courses in 6th grade, Math 6, Math 7, and Math 8. I think it's important to highlight what you mentioned, which is that it does prepare students to get to the highest levels of math offered in the high schools. If they take algebra as a 9th grader, geometry as a 10th grader, algebra 2 as an 11th grader, they actually have the option for AP statistics.
That's right.
So they can take an advanced placement course through that pathway. Yeah. Also, each of the high schools that we feed into has their own acceleration options or opportunities within their programs, along with a relationship with College of San Mateo, which allows for students to take concurrent enrollment outside of that school day, which would allow them to accelerate then in the high school pathways. So taking our grade level courses does give our students the opportunity to get to the same levels of math as students who are interested in accelerating within middle school without compressing or tweaking their schedules within middle school.
And my thing is, if a child takes 6th grade math, taking the course is one thing. I want them to learn 6th grade math. I want them to take an exam at the end of the year that says, I meet the standards or exceed the standards. That's what it's about for me, and that's why I think it's so important for parents out there listening. If you take these grade level courses and your child meets and exceeds standards in each one of those years, that's just wonderful.
Great.
It's just a ladder to that next step. There's a real value in that. So anyway, that's one of my perspectives. Amy, what do you see?
Yeah, I want to add to that what did I want to add? we're math teachers and we love math.
Yeah.
And we know that middle school mathematics is absolutely foundational for success in high school and beyond.
That's right.
Pre-algebra and algebra content is what it's about to then be able to access, to feel like you're ready to take those risks in high school, to see the beauty and creativity that is in mathematics. If you are sort of unsure of your footing, then you sink.
Yeah.
And we've seen it.
Yeah.
And that's what the research says. So
That's right.
we are thrilled to say, first of all, it's a really strong pathway to stay in the grade level courses,
Mhm.
Math 6, Math 7, Math 8. If you are really interested and prepared to take algebra, high school Common Core algebra in middle school, we want to make sure that you have that opportunity to go deep with your foundation before, the compacted pathway that we had before was taking 4 years of math and putting it into 3 years. And that is not what you do when you add a high school course into the middle school. You don't give it less time, right? As we're developing that understanding. So I guess what I want to say is that I'm really excited to offer options because we are,
Because it's 3 options.
Right.
there are
Right.
3
Yeah.
different options. And so we are giving options to our students and then the families that we serve here in San Mateo Foster City. And we feel as math educators that all
Yeah.
3 options are going to set your students up for success beyond
That's right.
our classrooms.
Mhm.
And that's what we want to do.
Yeah. And we want to see those kids get to high school and take that AP stats class. And I want to see them pass the test.
That's
yeah.
right.
For me, it's not about getting into the class. It's
No.
about mastering it. And I think that starts, it starts in middle school, right? It begins that part of the process. You hear those options on the table. You're obviously thinking master schedule. You're thinking about like, how do I apply this? You hear these 3 options. What comes to mind? What can you share on those?
Absolutely. So from the principal standpoint, 2 things come to mind. Number 1 is the message that this is a matter of equity, right? As you mentioned, it's opportunities, it's access.
Mhm.
As you know, our first trimester just ended,
Mhm.
and I've been reviewing grades and things like that. And one of the funny things that always gets me is when I start seeing A+, right? I'm always thinking, what are we not doing to challenge these kids, right? A+ are great, right? You see that on report cards, you're like, absolutely great, right?
Mhm.
But as I'm looking at the math A+, right, I keep thinking, what could we have done to provide their next challenge? And this is these offerings is offering the, those opportunities for kiddos to get to that next level of challenges, right? Number 2, I think what also comes to mind, families often think, well, what about the kids who are struggling? And we have answers for those, for that as well.
Mhm.
Where we have, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of coaching
Mhm.
for just across, the spectrum, right, of our coach offerings
Mhm.
to ensure that, again, going back to equity, right, it's ensuring that we have a plan for all students, no matter where they are on the range of continuum. And so I think these offerings is going to provide students, right, with that avenue into high school math, right, into those AP courses, so that they have those opportunities. And obviously, we're thinking of that college preparation component as well. And so if the earlier we do it, right, in middle school, the better we'll be, we'll position these students.
I want him to be my child's principal. my two older kids they're gone. You can't be their principal. My other kids are too small. They're too far away.
You're the superintendent. You can make it happen.
Right,
You're their dad
exactly.
and you're the superintendent. I feel
All the
like
parents
you
at
would
Abbott
make
would be
this
so mad at me. No, I don't want to deal with the crowd outside.
happen.
Kenyatta, you've been in these meetings. What's your,
Yes,
what can you add before, we're gonna start taking questions here in a minute. What can you add? What's your
Sure.
perspective on this?
So for me, it's about choice
Yeah.
and with the
Options.
and
Yeah,
options and
absolutely.
options. And families,
Yeah.
they have that, right? So it's really making sure at the end of the day that all students who leave our system
Yeah.
have a sound mathematical foundation and
Mhm.
they are ready for high school math.
That's right.
And the pathways that we're looking at will provide them with that. And for those students who need to have that extra challenge and who want to take the double math in 8th grade, they
Yeah.
can do that as well.
Mhm.
And for the students who are already approaching that proficiency in 7th grade at the end of their 6th grade year, and they feel really confident, I know that 7th grade material, they'll have the option to take a test
Yeah.
and then move into 7th grade math,
Mhm.
or excuse me, 8th grade math as a 7th grader. So it's one of those things that we haven't done before, which is
Yeah.
provide those multiple
Yeah.
options
We've
in our
typically had
system.
one option.
It's very, kind of finite. It's
Yeah.
one option and,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much it. And so what's really exciting about this is that it's not that.
Yeah.
And folks will have options to choose from. And I think families will really appreciate that.
Yeah, and you've seen it develop. You know, you were
Sure.
a principal at Burrell, you were an administrator, and you've seen sort of the ebb and the flow. And
Mhm.
what I really like about what we have on the table right now is it's not a reaction, it's not a knee jerk, it's not a decision made on the weekend between two people. I mean, we really dug into this. We have a question. I'm waiting for. In order to get that Starbucks mug, you are.
We handed down. It's like passing
don't
notes.
just, you don't just get it because you're so nice. You have to actually.
Check yes or check
Will
no.
all three options be available next year, or is the board voting on which ones to offer? My recommendation to the board will be that we offer multiple options and the ones that we just described. So to answer the question, the option where students can either test out or take some kind of guided, kind of open course to complete their Math 7. And then basically those students would start 7th grade, but take 8th grade math that year. They would basically kind of jump ahead, allowing them in 8th grade to take algebra.
That's right.
Yeah, and then the others, we would stick together in that 7th grade math class. And then at the end of 7th grade, I think that's going to be exciting for us to counsel kids.
Right.
Some kids are going to need that confidence boost, that principal to say, you can do this, I believe in you.
Right.
And, and I think about this a lot from the perspective of a parent. I have 5 children. My oldest, he needed one thing for math. My second needs something completely different.
Yeah.
They're just not the same child. So for some parents, they're going to look at this and go, oh yeah, option A. That same parent's going to go, oh, for my other child, option B.
Mhm.
And that's what I love about it,
Right.
is that it is truly about what the children need,
Mhm.
not only our sort of educational opinion that is separated from what children in the district might need. So that's the response there. I want to go ahead and open up to the community for other questions. Again, our engagement strategies have been very thorough, so I'm super happy to also to continue the conversation here between all of us. We do have another YouTube live stream on November 17th. I'll invite you all back here again. You guys are definitely getting an A+ on your performance tonight.
Oh,
So you're all welcome back, unless
apparently
you're
we need more of a challenge.
unless you're tutoring somebody for like 3 hours.
3 hours.
To the end.
That's right.
This is what this is about. This is about engagement. This is about education. This is about connection. That's what we're doing here. I really, really want to encourage folks to come out to that event this Saturday over at Bayside, because it's just another opportunity to be, just to be connected to each other and to talk to each other about this issue. We do have a second question coming in, and that is going to head down this way. Just from a background perspective, were you, Dr. Rubalcaba, a math person? Were you more of a humanities person when you were a student, when you were at that grade? How did you identify it?
In elementary school, I was not a math
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
right? I think a breakthrough happened not until high school when I had a tutor
Got
who
you.
just got me
Connected.
and motivated, right?
You know, my brothers and I, as kids, we went to school in the Los Angeles Unified School District. And my oldest brother, he was sort of famous among like our whole family because he was so strong at math. In that district, they would do a math competition for all the students, and you can imagine it's a million students in that district. And you know, he went to this math competition and got first place among all the fifth grade students. So after that, his feet didn't touch the ground. We would throw rose petals at his feet when he would walk. So in our family, it was like math was it. You know, we love math. It was all about math. And then, you know, you just develop and grow and you decide for yourself the further along. You know, when I got to high school, calculus wasn't my thing, and I just chose not to go down that road. But I had those options available. I had that ability to do it, and I had a lot of awesome teachers behind me in that process too. I'm going to take this question. We do have two more that popped up while we were sitting here talking. Will there be options for mid-year course correction? So let me think through this. Okay, so let's say a student wants to jump ahead and take that 8th grade math class next year, but then halfway through the year decides they want to take 7th grade math. I think that would actually be a fairly easy thing to put in place. Now,
Absolutely.
the reverse, I don't think we could do that. Like, I don't think a person could not accelerate and then in the middle of the year expect to accelerate. I don't think it would only work in that one direction. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah,
Correct.
but I do think that the option, having the suite of options, if a student doesn't accelerate initially through the proficiency test,
Yeah.
but then decides partway through 7th grade that they do actually feel like they're ready for algebra,
Yeah.
they will have an option, which is what the old system didn't have.
That's right.
And now we're going to give them at the end of 7th grade, they will have the available to them the choice to double period in 8th grade and accelerate through algebra by the end of their 8th grade year.
Yeah, I agree. A couple more questions coming down the pipe here. Thank you for that. First question is, will 8th grade algebra option be open to anyone who wants to enroll? Yeah, so that's what we talked about this year that was a little bit different than maybe what happened in previous years was that, you know, as an educator, what I really encourage principals and teachers and district staff to do is like plant your flag in the ground and give people your honest and ethical recommendation. Like, we should always tell families what we feel strongly is best for their child. But the reality is that when parents insist and insist and insist, then as a school district, we have always bowed to that request. We have always ended up making space or making that access for their child to go into a program. I think you actually don't have to do that when you build a relationship with families to explain why you don't recommend algebra. But if families are interested, we're going to use data. We're going to use grades. We're going to use test scores to create a strong argument for why they should take that algebra class, because some families will have to counsel them into
Yes,
the
that's
class.
right.
That's
Correct.
And others will have to counsel them that is not in their child's best interest. And I think we'll see a little bit of both of those.
I think so too, and I know that this is something that teachers are really excited about,
Yeah.
right? And the option where our students are with us for Math 6 and then with us for Math 7, all that time, our math specialists, our teachers in middle school are learning and are growing relationships with these students. And we are gathering data, we'll be getting assessment data, we'll be getting grade data, we'll be getting information about where they are on their trajectory, and then we can use that to counsel in. And it's really going to feel different, I think, than what we had been doing, which is a test to access these.
Exactly.
And so I just feel like that shift is really exciting. I think we'll see a lot more of our students being able to access because we're setting that strong foundation, and we're really going to invite and encourage students who might not have previously seen themselves in an 8th grade algebra class, we're gonna, with data, with information, help to make a recommendation.
And what my research has been on the district has been to basically find kids starting as early as 3rd grade and track students who exceed standards. Because when you exceed standards, you are demonstrating that it's deep knowledge. You really know the content, you really know the material. And so for me, when a student exceeds standards more than once in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and now that have district-wide 6th grade math in 6th grade, then those are students I want to look at and say, I really want to encourage you to continue on your path to take algebra in middle school. That number is 48% of the students in this district. Our typical annual percentage of students in algebra in 8th grade is 22%. So I just want you to think about that. How big of a gap that is. And it's because of the procedures we had in place before that, limited access, that gave few options, and that did, as what you described, take 4 years of content and squeeze it into 3 years of time, which is not a best practice. And our whole state is about to go down that path of saying it's important to give time to those middle school math courses. Really elevating, giving that time just to that middle school math, to those courses. Question on students, and we have one more coming down the pipe there.
Oh,
so
sorry.
maybe if you can.
So into this conversation.
Yeah. Will students in the accelerated option be in a class with other 7th or 8th grades? It'll be both. It'll be a mixture of enrollment. Each school's different. So the master schedule at Abbott is just very, very different from the master schedule at Burrell. We want kids to be able to take choir and computers and the whole menu of courses we offer. So we never do the 100% guarantee that your child is ever going to be in any one particular period of a class, but they will be in a Math 8 course, but in that accelerated timeline. And will students have multiple chances to get into the accelerated pathway? They'll have 2 chances. They'll have one, if we were to adopt this process, they'll have one basically in 4 months. And then they'll have another one in a year and 4 months. And so that's what's great about these options. And Pam's feverishly writing over there while we do that. Kenyatta, you went to school here. Were you a math person at school? Was that your jam? I know you taught science, but sometimes there's an
I
overlap.
did. Well, so I was a history person. I was into social sciences.
A history person who became a science teacher.
In middle school. So at Burrell, I had a phenomenal history teacher that just made learning history come alive. And like every day, you just wanted to hear the stories because this teacher was an orator.
Yeah.
And just really painted like a vivid historical record in past for students to really sink their teeth into and
Captivated.
It was just captivating. But then, as you know, I was a science teacher and at San Mateo High, it was really at the beginning of the biomedical type program that they have there. They have a wonderful science program there and had a phenomenal teacher. I'm going to call her out, Ellen Doherty, who just plucked me up and got me going. Brought me in into summer interns, and she partnered with Genentech, and we were the kids who just loved science and kind of geeked out around it. And we were doing it in the summer, after school, on the weekend. It was just awesome. And so, I ended up being more of a science person.
It's great about that when you come back to be an educator and you're like really passionate about what you like. I was a big math person in school, but I came back and I taught special education, and I just fell in love with the field. But when I became a principal, it's just so great to be able to go into every single classroom. And I was a principal at high school, so I could go into like an AP environmental science course and just sit there like, like I could go into an AP government course and just like, wow. And I would think like, man, these kids don't know how good of an education they're getting. They'll appreciate it in 10 years. But that's what's cool about being an educator too. It's just like seeing your colleagues and what they do. We had a question come in. Will there be multiple methods to show math proficiency for Math 7? I think it's more like we're thinking about it being like that end of course test. But you might just want to sit down in April and take that test.
Mhm.
You might want to do 5 weeks of independent study, checking in with the teacher, and then take the test in June. And you might want to go to summer school and take the test in July. And that's okay, because they're all going to meet that same, the concept anyway. Yeah. There's so much to talk about, folks. We have a board community workshop this Saturday, Bayside Academy, trustee Shar Watkins, trustee Noelia Corzo, yours truly, at Bayside Academy, 2 p.m., food provided, childcare provided, translation provided. We have another one of these in a week. We'll see how many of you show up with this open-ended invitation. Thank you all so much for joining me. It's been my pleasure. Look forward to the engagement, and we'll see you all very soon.